All of history's embraced. Captain's quarters sets the pace with Captain Mayhem at the helm. A voyage of knowledge, a story to round. Captain's quarters weekly delight, where history's treasures take flight. Led by Mayhem, Longwood, and Joe, they explore the past, row by row. Navigator Longwood charts the course, guiding listeners to knowledge.
Hey, welcome aboard. It is Captain Quarters Podcast. This is our 161st episode, and as you can see, I'm not sitting by myself tonight. I have some friends here because today is Veterans Day. And we're going to talk about Veterans Day, and everybody sitting at this table is a vet, and that's very important for us to talk about. But for now, everybody raise a glass real quick to Veterans Day. Aye. Very good. So, the first thing we always like to do is let everybody know how you can find us. Davey, what is that?
All right.
There.
Who sponsors us?
Yeah, you should talk about the Captain at the Pirate and Treasure Museum, our major sponsor. Give them credit for being our sponsor, our flagship sponsor. And if you need a good tour, go over to the Pirate and Treasure Museum. Not only do I work there, but my friend on the left-hand side here, and Mr. Matthew over here, he's like the ship's curator, the museum's curator. So we'll talk about a little of that afterwards too, because I have a funny, ironic realization I came to while I was thinking of questions for tonight. So, YouTube, ladies and gentlemen, Captain's Quarters YouTube, use that QR code, put your phone right up to the screen, that'll take you right to YouTube. You can like us, follow us, and subscribe to us. It's a trifecta of fun things to do, so you can be watching us every week, every Monday night, 8 p.m. live, Eastern Standard Time, Captain's Quarters Podcast. Thank you very much, Davey, for putting that up there. 8 Bells is our first event, always sponsored by the Riker family of reenactors. They do Spanish, they do British, they do Ren Fair, and they do Pirate. And if you actually look at all 4 of them, in some ways it's all about the same. But they're a good crew that helps me out, doing lots of things with us, and they do my traveling museum quite well and respectfully. So the family Rikers, they take care of all of our museum needs when we're out in the field. How many do we have, Davey?
8.
8! And I have a feeling I'm going to have to... Is our sound okay? Well, you can hear us, right?
We can hear you.
Okay, very good. I have a feeling I'm going to have to stand up and move to the screen. Let's see what happens when you put the first 2 up. Yep, I am going to have to stand up. These glasses are good, but
not that good.
Not that good. I should have brought my spyglass glasses in. It's getting to that point, ladies and gentlemen. I'm that old now. Damn it. All right, let's see what we have here. Tika Evan Nelson, American singer. She was the daughter of jazz musician John Nelson and jazz singer Maddie Della Shaw, and the sister of Prince. Oh, I didn't know that. He had a sister. In addition, she had seven half-siblings. She was Prince's only full sibling. She released 4 albums, all of which were released from 88 to 2011 and reached number 33 on the Billboard's Hot R&B Hip-Hop Songs chart in July 88 with Mark Anthony's tune. She was 64 years old. Barbara Taylor Bowman was an American early childhood education expert, advocate, professor, and author. Her areas of expertise included early childhood care and education, educational equity for minority and low-income children, as well as intergenerational family support and roles. She served on several boards and was the co-founder of Erickson Institute, which she pioneered the teaching of early childhood education and administration. She was 96 years old. Hi. Robert Arthur Allison, American professional stock car racing driver and owner. Allison was the founder of the Alabama Gang, a group of drivers based in Hueytown, Alabama, where they were abundant short tracks with high purses. Allison raced competitively in the NASCAR Cup Series from 61 to 88, while regularly competed in short track events throughout his career. He also raced in the IndyCar, Trans Am, and Can-Am, named one of NASCAR's 50 greatest drivers, and a member of the NASCAR Hall of Fame. He was 83. He was the 1983 Winston Cup champion and won the Daytona 500 in 78, 82, and 88. He was 86 years old. Ella Jenkins, an American singer-songwriter called the First Lady of the Children's Folk Song. She has been a leading performer of folk and children's music. Her album, Multicultural Children's Songs, 1995, has long been the most popular Smithsonian Folkways release. She has appeared on numerous children's television programs, and in 2004, she received a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award. According to culture writer Mark Yarmo, across her 67-year career, Jenkins firmly established the genre of children's music as a serious endeavor. She was 100 years old. Very good. George Wilkins, an American soundtrack composer who created several noteworthy scores and songs for Disney parks and resorts. Wilkins got his start in the music industry as a backup vocalist and vocal arranger for Patti Page during the 50s. In the 60s, he also co-founded the vocal group, the Doodletown Pipers. By this time, Wilkins broke out as a composer for film and television with his work on the Rankin Bass productions of Return to Oz, The Wacky World of Mother Goose. He was 90 years old. Anthony Tyron Todd, an American actor. Oh, I know who he was. He was best known for playing the title character in the Candyman film series and was William Bloodworth in the Final Destination franchise. For the former, he was nominated as the Critics' Choice and Fangoria Chainsaw Awards. He was 69 years old. Elwood Hughes Edwards Jr., an American voice actor. He is best known as the voice of four phrases for the internet service provider America Online, which he first recorded in '89. This included the trademark "You Got Mail." Creating his voice also appeared in a 2000 episode of The Simpsons, Little Big Mom, where he provided the voice of a virtual doctor saying, "You've got leprosy." And in the advertising for the '98 movie You Got Mail, he was 74 years old. And Donald John Bossler, an American professional football player, he was a fullback in the National Football League, NFL, for the Washington Redskins from 57 to 64. He played college football for the Miami Hurricanes and was selected in the first round of the '57 NFL draft with the 9th overall pick. He was inducted into the College Hall of Fame. In 1990, he was 88 years old. I believe that's it, right? Very good. Let me get back to my chair. And ladies and gentlemen, as we always like to do, we raise our glass in honor to these fallen heroes of our culture, to their families, and to their friends. 8 bells, please, Davey. Very good, Davey, very good. Now, we always like to bring it up a notch from the kind of the sadness of people passing to Mini Mayhem and Joke of the Week. What do we have from Mini Mayhem? Is he in and ready?
He is in.
Let's have him.
Mates, Mini Mayhem here with Joke of the Week, sponsored by Salt City Comics. What happened when Bluebeard fell overboard in the Red Sea? Think about it, and I'll give you the answer at the end of the show.
All right. I know the answer to this one, and I'm already thinking this is stupid.
I don't know the answer, but I think it's going to be a color wheel.
It is going to be a color thing. It's going to be a color thing. Yeah, it's going to be a color thing. All right, Davey, we have Quote of the Week next, which is sponsored by Spyglass Travel. If you want a good walking tour of the oldest city in the nation, call up Spyglass Travel. Our friends over at Spyglass Travel, Kevin and Angie Rose, will give you a wonderful walking tour. Most of those tours are over an hour long, so not only are you getting history, but you're getting a good workout, good cardiovascular, all in the name of history. So what is our quote, Davey? The true soldier fights not because he hates what is in front of him, but because he hates what is behind him. G.K. Chesterton. That's when, that
Well,
was
because of what is behind it.
because, did I say it? Okay, but because what is behind him, all right.
Now that I can support.
All right, I see that one. That's a good one. That's one that you must have did some digging for.
He's fighting for the man.
I did, in honor of Veterans Day.
I get it. All right, very good. I would say that's an agreement in all five of us sitting here then,
I see.
Right. And of course, National Day of. There was only two, right, Davey?
Only two.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And it's very simple. National Sunday Day, which doesn't make any sense. Why would you put Sunday Day on a Monday? It doesn't make any sense. National Sunday Day brings a celebration to ice cream lovers across the country. Enjoy one of every flavor and bring a friend. An ice cream sundae typically consists of 1 or 2 scoops of ice cream topped with syrup or sauce. The sundae is often topped with whipped cream, maraschino cherries, sprinkles, pineapple, or variety of other toppings, like bananas. How did they leave bananas out of that? I thought bananas were part of every sundae, but okay, maybe I don't know anything. And the other one? Why, it's Veterans Day, as if we didn't know that one. Veterans Day honors military who served in the United States Armed Forces. The federal holiday coincides with Armistice Day and Remembrance Day, which marks World War I. These observances reflect the end of significant hostilities at the 11th hour on the 11th day of the 11th month of 1918, when the armistice with Germany took effect. Initially, the United States observed Armistice Day as well. However, it evolved into the current Veterans Day starting in 1954, which reminds me, Davey, I know last year you did a video on Veterans Day.
And I have one again.
You do have that one
On
again?
the History Channel.
Why don't you play that one next first, and then we'll go into This Week in History. How's that sound?
Okay.
Go ahead, play that one first.
Soldiers from wars both old and new march down city streets. Flags hang from homes, businesses, even car antennas. Ceremonies remember those who dutifully served their nation. It's Veterans Day, or Remembrance Day, as it's known in much of the world, a time to honor members of the armed forces. And it all began in a railroad car with a document to end the war to end all wars. World War I, also known as the Great War, shocked the global community with its unprecedented toll in human life. Untold millions were killed. Germany was running low on manpower and supplies, so they agreed to sign an armistice, or truce, in the French commander Ferdinand Foch's private rail car. On the 11th hour, on the 11th day of the 11th month of 1918, all was quiet on the Western Front. The fighting had ended. Exactly 1 year later, President Woodrow Wilson decreed that Americans should observe a moment of silence at 11 a.m. to remember the armistice and to embrace the peace. Other Allied nations commemorated the peaceful anniversary as well. In England and Canada, citizens wore paper poppies. Poppies had become a symbol of the armistice. The poem Flanders Field described a one-time battlefield. In Flanders Field, the poppies blow, between the crosses, row on row. In America, the nation's first unknown soldier was laid to rest at Arlington National Cemetery on Armistice Day, 1921. He was a casualty of the Great War. Since that first memorial, other unknown soldiers from America's wars have been interred in the tomb. And it's become tradition for the president or one of his representatives to lay a wreath on the monument every November 11th. A resolution was passed in 1926 inviting all Americans to remember Armistice Day and the soldiers who fought so hard for peace. The idea caught on. By 1938, the day was marked with so many ceremonies and parades, Congress made it a legal holiday, giving people the day off work. After World War II and the Korean War, Americans wanted to open up the holiday to include not just World War I veterans, but all who served in combat. In 1954, President Dwight Eisenhower, a World War II vet himself, legally changed the U.S. Armistice Day to Veterans Day, honoring those who served in all American wars. For a brief time, starting in 1971, Congress moved the holiday to the fourth Monday in October, giving Americans a 3-day weekend. But most people rejected the idea. The traditional date of November 11th, the anniversary of the Great War's ceasefire, was too historically important to forget. President Ford reversed the law in 1975, returning Veterans Day back to its rightful date. Over the decades, the holiday has changed with the times. Originally, it was a call for world peace. Then in the U.S., it became a day to remember war veterans. Today, Veterans Day is set aside to honor not just those who served in war, but also those who have served their nation in peace.
They had to give a day to the Marines to recover from their birthday on the 10th.
Could be.
That's true. Very good. Very good, Davey. Very good. If you would like to go ahead and throw this week in history up, we'll go ahead and do that. That one is sponsored by our
Sorry, Captain, you forgot your question of the week, sponsored by.
Right, you're right. Sponsored by, that's why I've got you, Davey. You're the navigator. Sponsored by Ancient City Sirens. It is question of the week. And if you need good dancers for any event, Miss Gina and all of her dancers are available for just about any event you can think of. Well worthy, and I've been working with Miss Gina now for 18 years solid. So we've had a good relationship going on. Now the question of the week, do you believe in mandatory service to your country? With 5 veterans sitting at this table, we might have some surprising answers, but we'll see what happens. That question we're going to talk about in our guest section. Do notice the wording of it, and I'm going to leave it at that. So, do you believe in mandatory service for your country? So let's see what happens. Now we can go to This Week in Nautical History.
All right.
So, sponsored by Florida Water Tours. Like getting a good walking tour with Spyglass, you want a good tour from the water, from the Matanzas Bay, that's who you have to call, Florida Water Tours. We've actually been on their boat twice, and I'm trying to schedule something again for the crew, but it probably won't happen until the first week of January, so we'll see what happens. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, it is This Week in Nautical History.
Welcome to This Week in Nautical History, sponsored by our friends at Florida Water Tours. Experience the Intercoastal Waterway at its finest, featuring picture-perfect attractions. We begin this week in nautical history in the year 1493. Explorer Christopher Columbus sights the island of Saba in the Leeward Islands, but does not land. 1620. Mayflower pilgrims make their first landing in America at Provincetown Harbor, Massachusetts. 1688. Prince William of Orange's invasion fleet sails to England. 1720. Pirates Anne Bonny, Mary Read, and Calico Jack are captured by Captain Jonathan Barnett and brought to the Spanish town of Jamaica for trial. 1835. Charles Darwin reaches Tahiti on board the HMS Beagle, the location where he would formulate his ideas later written in the structure of the distribution of coral reefs. 1882. British gunboat HMS Flirt fires at and destroys villages of Abari and Asaba at the Forcado River in Niger in retaliation for attack on British-owned factory that left 5 Brits missing. 1928. British steamer Vestris, sailing from New York City to Uruguay, capsizes and sinks off Hampton Roads, Virginia, kills 111, including many women and children. 1942. The SS Robert E. Peary, a Liberty ship built in 4 days and 15.5 hours at Henry J. Kaiser's Richmond Shipyard No. 2, is launched, setting a new world record. 2008. RMS Queen Elizabeth II sets sail from Southampton, England on her final voyage to Dubai. And finally, in 2017, Argentine submarine San Juan goes missing in the Atlantic after reporting mechanical failure. And that was This Week in Nautical History.
Very good, Davey. Very good. When we talk about any of the other crews that are in joint with some of the things we do, that section is always called community concerns. But we only have one thing, and that's Blackbeard's Ball, which is by Ancient City Privateers, and it is this Friday night. I will be in attendance. I won't be able to stay all the way. Well, I could stay, but I have to go drive to Daytona and pick up my wife. She's flying in from Arizona. But I have promised to make an appearance, and so I will be there. I know that Gene and the girls will be there.
Oh, yes.
So it will be a fine event. They've been putting the Blackbeard's Ball on now for about 9 or 10 years, I believe. I could be wrong on that. If anybody from ACP happens to be watching, you can correct me in the comments. Although, like the words on the 8 bells, I can't see the comments either. So, so there you go. Very good. So now it's time to have these 4 fine people that have just been sitting here staring at everything be a part of the show.
Well done, Davey.
Yeah.
You did well.
You did good, Davey, as always. That's why he's the navigator. Isn't it true that your crew always takes care of you?
Yes.
Yes. So,
Absolutely.
Keep us on course.
speaking of that, we're going to do this. Instead of me introducing, each one are going to tell you who they are and their branch of service. Before they do, I will tell you, I have a family, personal relationship with everybody at this table. They're either part of the crew or part of the museum, and we've been friends for several years, and some longer than others. And we always have a good time. And when we have conversations, I'm going to explain that one in just a few minutes with one of our questions. But Matthew, I'll let you start.
All right.
Tell everybody who you are, what you were in the dreaded.
The dreaded Navy, as far as you're concerned. So I was Matthew Frick. I'm a 20-year Navy veteran, so I'm retired, which gives me a lot of leeway to do what I want to do.
Yeah,
I'm retired.
absolutely.
So, but yes, I joined the Navy to drive ships, and that's what I got to do. And so it has been the best decision of my life. I did actually get out of the Navy for almost a year, worked on a tugboat, got back in the Navy, and retired from there. So that's my whole life is the Navy. It's my father, my grandfather, both of my grandfathers were all Navy. So I was born to be in this service.
And not one regret, right?
Not one
regret.
Not one.
Mr. D.
Good evening. Dana Thomas, also known as Mr. D. 6-year veteran of the United States Navy, 4 years in the submarine force. Again, like Matthew, proud of what I've done, and it has had a long and lasting impact upon the way I operate my life. Glad to have served.
No regrets on your part.
None
None
whatsoever.
whatsoever. And on my left is Mr. Leon, and it may appear that I've been rude and left the lady for the last, but there's a reason, and I'll tell you why in just a moment. Mr. Leon.
Leon H. Cieslaw, Army and Army National Guard, kind of a weird career. Army enlisted, National Guard enlisted, Army officer, National Guard officer. So I've been around and done some interesting things.
And not one regret.
Well, I would rather go back in the Army than go back into law enforcement, I'll put it that way.
There you go. Very well said. Very true. Now, the reason I inadvertently left Melinda for last is because I think that women that go in the military service actually deserve an extra thank you, because it is a tough job for the women in the military. You were in the medical field,
Yes.
so go ahead and tell everybody a little more.
Hi, I was Army Nurse Corps, active duty 1980 to 1984. My husband was also in the military. He was in Special Forces. He decided to have a family, so I got out temporarily, and then I did individual ready reserve. And my last 2 weeks tour of duty was in 1990 when Desert Shield started. And I was stationed at Fort Bragg for 2 weeks, and that was quite an experience. And I don't regret 1 minute of being in the Army. I loved it. Most of our family's been military, so I got U.S. government property stamped on my butt, when I was born.
Yeah, that's pretty typical too. So if you don't know, 1977 to 1991, with delayed enlistment and all the other things that go with it. That's 16 years in the military, as in the Air Force. Had some great tours, and do not regret it one bit. So, Davey, do you have any of the pictures that we sent in? If you see mine, pop mine up there first to get that laugh out of the way right now. This one is me, 1977. That is, don't look at it too close, Mr. D. That's me. That's the summer of 1977. That's probably, I believe that was my basic training photo, I think.
Looks like one.
Yeah, so, the typical flag on the background. So 1977, that's 50 years ago, almost? Yeah, almost 50 years ago. Yeah, I am. I'm old. Damn. So if you have any others, if you pop one up once in a while, we'll throw it out there. What I wanted to ask everybody on the panel here that's sitting with me today, let's first do the question of the week. If you pop the question of the week back up there, Davey. The question was, do you believe in mandatory service to your country? I did not put the word military in there. I put the word service in there. Although I believe military should be the high priority, I do believe there are other countries, I know Japan is one of them, where you serve your country, not just as in the military, but they have other things that you can do. So do you believe that military service or mandatory service is important to your country? When we had our pre-brief or our pre-show, Mr. D wanted to clarify it, so he was a little bit more needing a clarification, so he gets to answer first.
And probably because I'm a victim, we'll call it that, a proponent of the time when we had and still have an all-volunteer military. But I do feel that service to the country, whether it be the Peace Corps, whether it be through other services in rescues, hurricane relief, there are many ways people can serve. But to give yourself skin in the game and serving the country that has served you so well as a citizen, I think should be appropriate and mandatory.
So, Matthew, you agree, right?
I do agree. I think whether it's Peace Corps, but there's also AmeriCorps, so you don't have to go
My
overseas.
apologies, thank you.
Yeah, and so you can serve in your country, and if you do it for 4 years, right, just like a normal military enlistment, 4 years, initially, it's then do it. You're giving back to the country, and you're going to help, but the programs have to be to where it means something, So if the programs themselves don't actually do anything, that's not going to help. It's like, so the programs need to be developed to the point where we get to where we can say everybody has to serve, and they serve, and they do that, and that's going to give everybody, like you said, skin in the game. So now you're a part of the country, and so you actually have something to do. So you're not, I think that will do a lot for the youth in this country to be where they're just not living on their own and then thinking about, criminal activities or anything like that. Now you've gone in, you've done it. Maybe you get something that clicks in your brain, so you change it, so you become a part of the country.
Absolutely.
And thank you for the clarification. I meant AmeriCorps.
What do you think? What do you think, Melinda?
Well, I don't have a whole lot more to add. I agree 100% what they say. I think for the youth, it'd be very important. I don't think you should just necessarily have to immediately go to college right out of high school. Look, so many kids at that age don't really know what they want to do in life, and maybe doing some sort of service gives them training, discipline, time to mature, and then decide what they really want to do in life. And it does put the skin in the game. I think it helps you appreciate your country more.
What do you think?
I agree 100%, except I think it should be a mandatory 2 year, not necessarily
2 years.
because when I went in the Army, it was under the old Reagan buildup,
Okay.
because I had already not done so good in my first time in college. And I went around to all my professors, and I said, I'm not quite ready for this. I'm going to join the Army. They said, we agree. And they let me get out passing, but I was able to come back and get my education with the Army money that I got
Years ago.
and being in the Guard.
So I'll throw my 3.5 cents worth in. I believe that it should be between 2 and 4. I think it should be optional, and here's why. Because many of the technical schools that you have to go to in the military last long enough that you will not have a whole lot of practical application in your job. So 3 years would be better. I also believe that there's 2 other reasons that making mandatory service, especially if you push it towards our high school graduates. One of the things that will stop is all of these people putting themselves in debt for college payments that they don't need to do. If they serve their country, then the country can turn around like it does for the military and pay a certain amount of the college for you right off the bat. Now you're not putting yourself in debt anymore.
Or trade school.
Or trade school, because I believe in trade schools big time. The other thing it does is this: if it turns everybody into an actual paycheck working person in the United States of America, it creates an entire new baseline tax base for the entire country. And that tax base of the entire country, where everybody's paying taxes, increases the income that the government has, and they can quit borrowing money from everybody, and they can quit raising taxes on everybody. They have basically, look at it this way: we had 152 million people vote this last election. If that was the same number of teenagers that you have moving into the, say a quarter of that, okay, so you got 60 million teenagers every year moving into the working class. Look how many tax-paying people you have that help the tax base of the government. So I believe there's tons of benefits, but here's the one I'm going to tell you that hopefully will make you laugh. This is a payment to my dad. By the way, this is some of the ashes of my dad in this red, white, and blue urn. He passed away a couple of years ago, and so we honor him. But when I left home the first time in '77, I did not come back home until '80. I was gone for 37 months. And I came home, and Dad, when I came home, about the second night, said, "Come on, we're going to go out." And we went out. We went to his favorite little, and back then he drank, and we went to an oyster bar. And this is how my father introduced me to all of his friends. "This is my son. He's in the military. It made him a human being." That is what I believe is very important about making mandatory service, because we have people that have gotten out of high school and are now 38 or in their 30s, still don't know what they want to do with the world. And here's one more point about the military. If it was the military only, I don't know about AmeriCorps or anything else. In the military, you do learn a certain amount of American history.
Right.
And that's important. And there's a lot of young people that don't know anything about American history.
And so I want to, I had 2 points, but I forgot one of them. So, the idea of this service thing and stuff, just to, throw out St. Johns County high schools, St. Johns County schools, right? For these kids, before they graduate from high school, you have to get a certain amount of volunteer hours. So they're learning volunteer stuff. So I think at least where we live is on the right track. It's like, it's getting them that, because we don't have the national service type of thing, but they're getting the kids to understand, hey, you need to do volunteer service, and they have to clock and they get letters that they did volunteer service all over, the county or whatever. So
we've had some high school kids over the last. I've been running the Swashbucklers since 2009, St. Augustine Swashbucklers. We've had some high school kids that have come to us and volunteered to help us on events. All I had to do was sign their letters.
Yeah.
And they got credit for the work they did.
Like I said, that's a start.
It is a start. It's a very good start.
Something small, but I think the national thing is probably something we definitely.
So here's a lead into my next question.
The answer is 7.
Okay. After I give you the question and it is 7, I'm gonna think, wow, you know something.
Captain, can I say something?
What's that?
I said, can I say something?
Yes.
So,
you know what? Wait a minute, before you say anything, how dare me? I forget, because Davey served in the Coast Guard, so he is a vet also, and that's bad on my part, Davey. So we applaud you for the Coast Guard work. Now you may throw something in.
So, I ended up going in right out of high school in '81. It was not my decision. My father, at the time, said, "This is what you need to do." He had been in the Navy. He was in the Korean War and stuff, and he had pointed out to me that this would be something that would be good for me. And so I went ahead, went in there, and sure enough, if he wasn't right, after the 4 years of being in there, when I came out, I found that everybody that I had graduated with, they were down on this level, but I was much higher up just because of the time, those 4 years I spent in the military. I kind of passed them. And maturity and everything else. So it actually did me some good. I mean, I can only speak for myself, but.
So when I left to go into the Air Force in '77, the summer of '77, I was living in Panama City. And when I came back to see my mom and dad in September of 1980, a little over 3 years, some of the guys that I palled around with in high school were still living at home with mom, still driving the same old truck, still doing the same old stupid shit. I probably will get caught for that one, but still, they hadn't changed any. And my dad had told me, and I bet all of you have heard the same thing, you really can never go back. Because things change. I didn't have the same, and mentality is the only word I can think of. I just didn't have the same mentality. I didn't want to go sit on the beach and
You grew up.
I grew up. As my dad said, I turned into a human being. So that's a very good point, Davey. It does. It changes you. It teaches you certain aspects of responsibility, both self-responsible and community. And it's very important. So the military is very important. So it leads me to the next question. So if 7's the right answer.
Oh, before you get to that, are you willing to take your son?
Yeah.
Has a different. Do you want to see what his?
Let's see.
Yeah.
Thank you for your service, but I disagree. It should be a decision that men and women make on their own. People have a right to serve or not. Serving is always voluntary.
Here's the second part.
Forcing people gets too close to a totalitarian state and could be seen as violating the Ninth Amendment.
God, what's the Ninth Amendment?
All right, so my son and I are going to have an argument here. Actually, I would agree with him to a point. It has to be voluntary, but there has to be options of choice, like we talked about at the table. Maybe it's not military to do. Maybe it is AmeriCorps, or in Japan, the entire garbage collection system is run by the government, and it's one of the things that you can volunteer to do is be a garbage collector. So maybe mandatory would be the wrong word, but I do believe, and my son may disagree with me there too, I do believe that in order to really have a substantial position in your community, in your government, or in your country, you really need to have had to have done something for it. And I'd be even willing to say going into the teaching profession would be one of them, because my son's a teacher. Teachers are much needed in this country. So that could be one of the options. But I still fall back on the idea that if you have all of these people going into a lot of these people that racked up thousands and thousands of dollars of debt for education, can't pay them back, and some of our government wants to pay that off for them. That's one of those other arguments that I think, we don't do that.
And that's the thing, is like, maybe it's not, that's whether it's mandatory you have to do it, but you do it and you get these privileges that nobody else gets.
Right.
So maybe it's that.
Maybe there are some other privileges, but it's just what have I just said right there? So I'm reading Zachary, he's up in Michigan, and he says, being an Army brat, I highly thought about joining. I still have my draft card tucked away. Wait a minute, draft card, does that mean you're older than I am, Zachary? But that's giving away your age. But I feel at this time, till the government can better take care of wounded vets, it should not be mandatory. I guess I still have to agree that mandatory might not be the proper word, but there needs to be something that drives people into a proper direction for their lives.
A decent carrot.
A decent carrot. A big fat carrot, yeah.
My carrot was I get to go overseas. I get to go do, well, not my own thing, but go out and start growing up.
Man,
I got college money for
We
it.
got to travel.
and you got to travel, and that's gonna be, that's my next question, but let me say one more thing to my son. I wholeheartedly agree with you. Mandatory may be the wrong way to do it, because then we become more of a totalitarian society, and I truly believe that that's not right either. I mean, look at what happened when they did have the draft. Those people that didn't want to do anything about it, they left the country, or became conscientious objectors, and that didn't help anything either. So there needs to be something in there that I think helps our young people, develops our young people's young brains, and does well for the government at the same time.
That's why it's good we can have this discussion.
Absolutely.
Stuff like that.
Doesn't do well for the government, does well for the society.
True. It does.
It forces groups working together for a common goal. It hopefully builds a little more of a work ethic as well.
Leadership skills.
So Lord Imperatus, and I don't know, that's a new name on our list, so I don't know who that is, says, yes, first step is restoring pride in the country and value. Then mandatory service becomes more viable and appealing. At that point, here's what I'd say. At that point, if you've restored pride in your country, you don't need to make it mandatory.
Correct.
Look at what happened after 9/11.
We're not there yet.
Yeah, we're not there yet. Look at, I can tell you this, my Uncle Bill, he was not my blood uncle, but he was a cop. He was a foot patrol cop in the Bronx at the time that Japan bombed Pearl Harbor. He said the bars emptied out of young people running to the recruiting stations to join to fight the war. It is that national thing. It happened with 9/11, the input of people that joined the military. So I totally agree with that. If a government can force you to serve, what's next? We lose the freedom of speech. Again, if more understood the benefits, I believe more would join.
The government can force you to serve. You still got that draft card, right?
Yeah. The draft would happen. That is that option. That's still a legal law. And what did your guest say about me? Which one? I don't, did we say something? Anyway, mandatory might not be the right word. I would agree with that. But I do believe that everybody should feel like they need to do something for the government or for the country. Old username from D&D days. New crew member with Dell from PCB. Okay, all right, very good. All right, very good. So that brings me to the next step of our questioning. We have all served in myriad different countries. The United States government gave us free travel to see the world. And I did see the world, so I'll start. Japan, Korea, Philippines, Washington, D.C., which is a country all its own. Area 51, Tucson, Arizona, San Antonio, Texas, and most of my training was at Quantico, Virginia on a Marine base as an Air Force guy. That was hell. It was hell. So, that's a lot of mine that I can actually say in public of things that I did. So that's several different countries. Melinda, we'll let you go first. Did you get to do any world traveling?
Well, indirectly as a dependent, I served active duty at Fort Polk, Louisiana, which is in some ways kind of a foreign country. Way out in the
I've heard stories.
That's Louisiana for you. Yeah.
And Fort Bragg, which is where I was literally born. So that was really cool. Actually, my first duty was at Fort Bragg, and I literally was working in a hospital that was across the street from the old hospital where I was born in the hallway. So it was quite an experience, but because of my dad being in the military, I got to live in Italy, in France, Okinawa, and because of my in-laws, I got to visit Germany, Switzerland. I even got to learn how to ski in Davos, which was awesome. So I've had quite a few experiences. It's great. That's one thing about being a military brat, to be able to see all the different cultures, and you actually start getting a little bit homesick, and you really appreciate your own country after you've been in somebody else's country and live and see how they live.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
How many countries you do, Leon?
Well, Germany for 2 years when I was a private, I was a border scout, so I got a chance to live in Germany, but a BGS did a screwed up patrol and it was easier to walk on the Czech side. Now this was back near the Cold War and we weren't super friendly. The Bundesgrenzschutz I was with West German Federal Border Police said, nah, it's easier on Czech side, we go over there. Okay. And so I got to visit Czechoslovakia, even, a couple meters in. Korea, I was stationed there for a year as a tank platoon leader. And Kuwait and Saudi right after 9/11. And I was a National Guard guy, but I was in the tripwire unit. National Guard guy, 9/11 happened. By October 12th, I was sitting in Prince Sultan Air Base in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
You did Korea too.
Yes, Korea. A year in Korea as a tank platoon officer.
Massey, where did you take boats to?
Wow. Let's see. So I was born in a naval hospital in Newport, Rhode Island, and then in Charleston, South Carolina, before my dad got out. And so when I got in the Navy, it was Annapolis for 4 years, and then from there, Norfolk, Virginia, and then after that, I went to Newport again for school, but went to Mayport here in Florida. So I was in Florida. Then I went to, so these are not countries, but they're states and they're places I live, right? So you can see where you can go all over the place. You can see the country, not just overseas, right? So Mayport, Florida. And then I went, and then after that, Puerto Rico. So I was stationed there for about 3 years. So I lived in Puerto Rico, got out of the Navy for almost a year, came back in, and then I went to Mayport again, so I was in Florida again. So from there, I went to Ingleside, Texas. And so I was there in Texas on a minesweeper, where we were in Bahrain for a while, then we were back in Texas. And then from there, we went to Rhode Island for a year at the Naval War College, then went to Naples, Italy. And so we were there for about 2.5 years. And then from there to California. So we were out near San Diego. And so we were in San Diego. And then from there to Virginia. And from in Virginia, though, I got to go to other places. I got to go see Moscow. I got to see the inner part of Russia. So it depends on where you're stationed, whether you get to go to all these different places. And so for me, because I was taking off ships because of multiple sclerosis, I looked for something to do. I was like, there's got to be something nobody else wants to do. So I found it in Virginia. And so I got to go to all these other countries all over the place. And so when we were in Italy, we got to go to Germany, we got to go to Paris, France, we got to go to London, England, where I gave a speech representing NATO. It was a talk on maritime piracy. So, I got to do that. So pirates were always there, right? So
Always been there.
always been there. So got that, and then we went from when we left Virginia, we retired. We came back down here, but I've got to see every country in the Middle East, minus Iraq and Afghanistan. So thank you all for your service.
I was in air conditioning. No, I was not.
I've been to Saudi, Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, and so been all over the place.
All the vacation spots.
UAE, all the vacations.
So if we,
But they were all done with a diplomatic mission. So I did
so if we
do a-
turn it over to D now and ask him where he's been, he has no earthly clue because he was in a submarine underwater.
Looking for Nemo.
So a quick summary, boot camp in Orlando, data systems A and C school at Mare Island near Vallejo, California, submarine school and advanced submarine school in Groton, Connecticut. From there, I was assigned to a submarine out of Charleston, the USS Sea Devil. Courtesy of the Sea Devil, I spent some time in the Caribbean, 2 stops there in St. Croix and Roosevelt Roads, Puerto Rico. And then courtesy of a Mediterranean tour, visited Gibraltar, Spain.
All the garden spots.
Yeah. Gibraltar, Spain, France, and Italy.
That is very good.
But you're right, most of it didn't see a darn thing.
So here's I told you earlier in the show, I told you I had this ironic revelation as I was thinking of things to talk about while we're sitting here. Tell me if this isn't ironic. Historically, almost all the pirates, not all of them, but most of the pirates were either ex or prior military. We're all ex or prior military, and now we're in a pirate, we do pirate stuff. Isn't that ironic? I mean, that came to my revelation there. I do want to say one thing. My son popped up one thing, and I do want to give him credit for his sarcasm because we said something about the draft, and he said, yeah, and the draft worked perfectly during the Vietnam War. Well, I'll give him credit for that. Oh, Davey, you know what? Let's do something really quick that steps away from this.
No, hold it. David, did you have any cruises?
Oh, that's right. We
out
need to ask David.
So after basic training in Cape May, New Jersey, I ended up being stationed in New Bedford, Massachusetts, on the Coast Guard cutter Unimac. So during the 80s, the Unimac had the responsibility. We were down in the Cuba and in the Caribbean, mostly towing. Had to do with all the drug trafficking crap. So.
But that's you were just down at the garden spot of the world, the Caribbean.
Yeah, so I didn't get over to the,
You were a
like you
legal
guys
pirate
did.
down there.
Huh?
You were a legal pirate.
That's how I got.
Yes, which is kind of funny that I'm a pirate. Back then it was fighting the pirates.
Go ahead.
I do want to insert one additional thing. The submarine is the most modern of all pirate ships.
All right, Davey, there were 2 links that I sent you, or that my son sent you, because he did.
I have the little news interview, but I didn't know when you wanted to put that.
Let me build them up, and let's throw that in here because it kind of fits with our conversation about whether or not people should be doing something for their government. So those that are watching and those that don't know, my son is a high school teacher, or a history teacher, and last week he set up a pseudo voting system. He voting booths. He spent several days working with the children to let them research and understand about voting. They had a station where you had to go get your ID card checked for ID cards for voting, and then they got to vote and they tabulated and did everything else. Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you had 2 news stations come out and 1 newspaper come out on that day and really gave you all kinds of honors and kudos. So I asked permission and he gave it to me. And he said one of them was a better one because it had the children in there too. So do you know which one it was, Davey?
I don't know. I had one queued up. I don't.
Cue it up and let's play that one and see what happens. But this is what my son is doing to help young people in this world.
Let's see. I think it's this one.
Continue sending in their ballots. Children at one middle school got to learn more about the election process through a class project. So Austin Middle School students held a mock election. Civics teacher William McRae says during the year, his class got the chance to learn more about the government and how we elect our leaders. While the students won't be old enough to vote for some time, Mr. McRae says it's essential to exercise your right.
Because I want the kids to experience one of the most fundamental rights in our republic, voting. And a lot of these kids won't get to even vote in the next election because they will not be old enough. So I teach them civics, and we are talking about the process of how the government works, and what better way for their rights to let them experience them having their own election for president.
Absolutely. So he went on to say that this type of program is there to engage students as they learn more about democracy.
When he sent me that and I got to see that, and I told him when we talked, I'm so proud of him for that. That is just fantastic. That not only is he doing something in the school, but the community is recognizing what he's doing, and it's important because, as I said in my speech last week across the captain's desk, voting is not just your right; it's your responsibility. And I have the opinion. Maybe my son will agree with me on this one, but I do have the opinion of this. If you don't vote, if you didn't vote in this last election, and you don't like anything that happens in the next 4 years, you don't have the right to complain. That's the way I look at it.
Huzzah for teaching the kids.
Oh, but yeah, doing good. So a toast to my son.
Yes.
Toast to my son.
Huzzah.
Huzzah. Good job. Very good. So let me ask you this as a question, and we're going to ask Davey first. But we already kind of know the answer because he said so. So your dad kind of forced you to go into the military. Forced you or highly suggested it?
Very highly suggested it.
But do you regret it?
No, I do not.
No. All right.
Once I got in there, once I got through basic training and stuff, and I was in there, I actually enjoyed it. And like I said, once I got out of there, and I got back, and when I met up with my friends that I had left, I was we had nothing in common that I used to have, so that was kind of a bummer. Like you said, they were still doing the same stupid stuff.
Out of the 5 of us sitting here at the table, I am going to say this. Matthew he mentioned it, but I'm going to actually throw it out there even further. Matthew is a graduate of Annapolis. That's like West Point for the Army or the Air Force Academy for the Air Force. He is an Annapolis naval graduate.
It's Ivy League. Yeah.
Hey, we learned one thing. We go serve in the Navy.
So did you get, because I kind of know the system for getting into the Air Force Academy, which I didn't have that privilege. But because your dad was in the Navy and your granddad was in the Navy, is that one of the things that opened the doors for Annapolis for you?
No, my dad was an Annapolis grad, but my 2 grandfathers were enlisted Navy.
They were real Navy guys.
They were real
Navy guys, right?
But you still had to go through, and I was a 3rd alternate, so which means one person decided, nah, fuck it, and then another person decided, no, forget it, and then I got it.
So you got it. All right. So very good.
I got lucky because I got into NROTC at Georgia Tech. Then I got into the Merchant Marine Academy at Kings Point, New York. Then I got into Army at West Point. Then, right before graduation, when we were done with classes, I got the letter that said I got into the Naval Academy. Guess who was my congressional sponsor? You have no idea. Ben Jones. You know who Ben Jones is?
I know the name.
Cooter from Dukes of Hazzard.
That's wild. Cooter from Dukes of Hazzard got me into the Naval Academy.
I win.
So what was the minimum SAT score to get in the academy?
I don't know if there was a minimum.
It's the Navy.
And I have a tie to this.
How long did you hold your breath? Oh, no,
I'm asking the question. In my latter years, toward finishing up on the submarine, the captain went to bat for me.
All right.
And if I wanted to go to the academy, he said, if you meet the minimum score for the academy, we'll go to bat for you to get you in the academy.
I don't know what the minimum
And,
was.
and I met the exact minimum, which was 1,200 at the time.
Okay, I had
Or 12 or 13.
I had
It was
1350.
whatever
But it
whatever
still
it
didn't
was.
matter because you still needed that congressional.
Yeah.
But they had it all lined up like you do it, and if you choose to do it, we'll put you in the account.
So take a screenshot of this because my son said that he agrees with that, which was what I said about voting, you can't complain. But what he actually says is, as he tells his students, the best way to complain or protest is to vote.
Amen.
So,
Agreed.
yes, very much
Here,
so.
here.
So let's see, you got to become an officer, but you didn't have to go through the normal
No, he's a
way to be an officer.
In the Navy, we call
Well,
it,
I did.
we call it a Mustang.
I Mustanged up. I made it to Sergeant E5 before I got promoted to cadet in the National Guard, but I was also going at the same time as I was concurrent with the National Guard. I was a student at University of Central Florida in the Army ROTC. So I'm 85. After that, I became a junior in the ranks at the ROTC, which gave me cadet status back at my old unit. So I went from being an E5 squad leader type over to, well, team leader type to being my platoon sergeant. He became my mentor, and he's like, we got this, don't worry about it.
So you didn't become an officer though, did you? Or because
Oh, yeah.
because
Oh,
you were
yeah.
in the medical field, you were an officer.
Yes,
Mhm.
Army Nurse Corps, we started out as the second lieutenant.
Okay.
And we get some credit for any work that we did in the past. I was working at a civilian hospital right out of college for about 6 months. So I got credit for that. So I got promoted to first lieutenant quicker. And I was practically became captain the same time as Mark. And he's like, "How did you do that?" You know, so,
And if Mark was not on assignment somewhere in the world,
right.
he would be here tonight because he had the invitation to be here also tonight. So, Mr. D, you like me, we pretty much just remain the working
Enlisted
class.
the entire time.
Yeah. So, a couple of other things come to mind for me to ask. And two of those things just went right out of my head.
I've got something to say about
Go
enlisted.
ahead, bring something in, add some things to it.
Okay. My dad started out as a buck private, and he got a commission during the Vietnam War. And when he found out I wanted to go to the Army, he said, "You better respect your sergeants, respect your people, and let them do their job." And that was like one of the best advice that I got because they were phenomenal. But I have to tell you, when I decided to join, I was working, and you have to get your physical. And the recruiter wanted to arrange a date for me to go with others that were going to be commissioned. Well, it wasn't going to match up with my schedule at the time, so I decided I'll just go on my own. So I scheduled it, and I went with the enlisted. So it was quite an experience going through a physical with the enlisted.
I'm sure it was.
And boy, they treat me just like the enlisted.
Yeah.
And that really opened up my eyes of what you have to go through. And so I was glad for the experience, but it was really funny when finally toward the end, they finally looked at my chart and went, oh, you're a lieutenant. And they're like, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "This is the only time I can get my physical done." So anyway, it was an interesting experience. I mean, I really owe a lot to my dad for helping me, giving me all such good advice for when I joined.
Anybody else have anything they want to throw in?
I'd be happy to. So my parents and my father was Army, Merchant Marine. I had uncles in the Navy, but none of that really motivated me. When I got out of high school, I had watched two older brothers go off to college, and I watched my parents' budget be decimated by brothers in college. At some point, I think I realized that me going off to college with a lack of personal discipline might not be the best thing for them or for me. I'd rather them not pay for my education and let the government pay for mine. I was highly recruited by a Navy recruiter to go in the nuclear power program.
Ooh.
And I didn't want to glow. So I avoided the nuclear power program, went advanced electronics, which has served me to this day. So I made the choice to go in and was fully supported by the family.
But I know there was a lot of psych stuff you had to go through to be a submariner. How the hell did you pass that?
To get that was an interesting experience. We'll just say that. Because it is an all-volunteer force and they do a lot of screening, by the time you get to the submarine, there's a really good chance.
And you're as big as a freaking torpedo. Tall as a torpedo.
Modern submarines are not as small as the World War II diesel boats
All
you
right,
see
gotcha then.
in Tampa, in Alabama, in the harbor. Modern submarines, I'm 6'2", and there were two places I might have to bend my head a little bit when walking the passageway.
Okay, that explains it then. Because I've only been on the attacks from World War II as
Right, and
museum
those
ships.
But I can give you the same experience.
Yeah.
Here's a shameless plug for the Neo Trinidad that's in our port right now.
Yep.
Spanish ship, built off of Magellan era, if I remember right. And we've also had the what's the other one?
Nina?
The bigger one, not the Nina. There's the other big one that comes through.
A galleon?
The Galleon. The Galleon. I've been on both of those. I'm 6 foot. I bang my head on every place in those ships.
Well, they were short back then.
Because they were very short. So I could understand what it would be like to be over 6 foot in a submarine. It's gotta be tough. And the bunks were short.
The bunk was
My
6 foot.
grandfather was shorter than me, which I'm 5'7". He was good on a World War
So
II submarine.
let me say this, because I'm going to throw my son into this too. Not only was my dad, his grandfather, my real father, and my stepfather, and I couldn't find a picture of my real father's military time, but my stepfather was in the military. I sent one of those pictures to Davey. So Davey, this had me thinking. Everybody here sent you some pictures, right?
Yes, they did.
So why don't we do this? Why don't you pop a picture up, and whoever picture it is, that person at the table will say something briefly about whatever that picture is. So just throw them up.
I think that's Mr. D.
That looks like Mr. D.
I thought this picture was the best summation of my military service, all in one picture, with the most information in one photo.
Wait, is there hair on that head?
Just a wee bit.
A wee bit of hair on that head.
That's the attack periscope on the USS Sea Devil, and I do not believe we were underway because
So you
wouldn't be taking a picture.
You're
That's
second
true.
class. What was
Absolutely right.
Yep, E5 second class.
All right, next up, what do we got? Oh, that came from Tinker, who was supposed to be here tonight, but I'm sure he has issues once in a while. But he worked on helicopters. He's a fine electronics person. I can say that. He does a lot of work for our Halloween event. So that was Tinker. What is that one?
Oh boy. Yeah, I know. It was a picture taken with an automatic camera, the old Polaroid.
Yeah, that's a Polaroid, all right.
Probably a collector's item now. But anyway, that is.
Hell, if not, the clothing is.
But anyway, I know it's hard to see. The man on the left is my dad, and the person on the right is my husband. And it was my swearing in. And my dad pinned my lieutenant bars on, and Mark swore me in.
Outstanding.
Very cool. Very cool.
And you can see how dated it is. That green dress that went out.
Well, I looked at it. I said,
Very becoming,
I thought
though.
those are foreign officers.
Be careful, Mr. D might like that.
All right, I'm the guy holding it up on the right-hand side. The other one is Al from the porta potty.
Oh, yeah.
Honorable discharge.
Honorable discharge is the name of his porta
We
potty
went.
company.
We were in. That is part of the Florida National Guard contingent at the Combined Air Operations Center in Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia, right after 9/11.
That's awesome.
Very good. Next one.
Tink.
That's Tinker. So
He's
that's
showing before and then and now.
There's a before and after. Wow. Okay, next.
I believe these are all Matt coming up.
That one is we're doing East Pack operations to drug operations. Every single Go Fast say you come on or fishing boat, they set themselves on fire and try to burn every single thing that's on board. So
And then jump overboard
and they jump overboard and we save them. We keep on board until we drop them off in Ecuador.
Yep, very good. Next.
That's in Ecuador. Yeah, see, that's the Navy right there.
Oh, you're the one in the center.
I'm the one in the center with the Atlanta Braves hat.
With a very much younger look.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. All right.
And that's me way on the left. I was the lead boarding officer on a Persian Gulf deployment enforcing UN sanctions against Iraq. So that was during the first
After the first Gulf
the
War.
first Gulf War.
Then Storm
So
1.
that was me. So
Storm 1, right?
That was when I got to be a pirate. Was right there.
Yeah, there you go. All right, click on.
And that's when I was XO on a minesweeper, and we were at battle station. So
How come helmets always look much bigger than your head?
well, because that was my head's not that big.
Next.
And that's one of the diplomatic things. I'm way on the right over there. That's when we were establishing the ICI for NATO, which is the International Cooperative whatever. But so the first NATO ships under the NATO flag going into the Persian Gulf. And so we had to establish with every one of the countries in the ICI, which was Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia. And so we had to visit each of them to set up where these ships could come in and stuff. So that's me on the right.
And the next scene after that, actually, believe it or not, is Matthew picking somebody up and running away to the music of Gentleman and an Officer and a Gentleman.
Actually, I'm actually on the middle ship. The middle ship is a Haigong 2, which was a Chinese tanker that was smuggling oil from Iraq to Iran. And so we caught them up in the Hat, which is the top part of the Persian Gulf, right? So we caught them. This was taken by my captain. The other one on the other side is I can't remember the name of the ship, but it's another destroyer. So I was on the Nicholson, which was a destroyer like that. That's an Iranian patrol boat right on the front. And so the Iranian patrol boats, when they were wondering where these people were, why didn't they make it to Kharg Island? They came and they started circling us. So I was on board as the lead boarding officer on that ship that we had captured. And so I was standing security duty. We stood security duty on those dudes for 4 months.
Oh, wow.
To keep the Iranians away, and then we handed them off to whatever country wanted to take them. So
Very cool. Go ahead, click another one, Davey.
and that's me at the end of the ICI journey. That's in Abu Dhabi.
Okay, very good.
Should be it. Oh, wait, no, one more.
Are you the only one who did anything?
Go on.
All my crap is in storage.
The only one that overlooked it.
Go back one, Davey. Go back one.
The other, that one's at the monument to Tchaikovsky in his hometown. So I got to go to Moscow and into Iran and stuff because I was working on a program that we helped the Russians destroy the SS-25 missiles.
Oh, okay.
And that's the only reason I could do that was because I had MS. And so I needed to find another place to work. And so there you go. So if you want to join the military, you can find all kinds of cool shit that you can do that are outside of what you think the military is. And it's not necessarily going into war. It's doing all kinds of stuff to help the world and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So that's really what we were doing.
Yeah, the strategic arms limitation talks and treaties.
Exactly. That's what we
Wow.
So I work for the.
That is old school track rotor blades. Yeah, sky jockey. Yeah, very much so. Very much. All right, you can throw that other one back up there, Davey. I just threw this one out there only because it kind of, if you look in the background there, that's D and is that Nicole?
That's Coley.
Yeah, Bentley did, and they did the national anthem, and somebody took that picture, and it just,
I was gonna say,
Still one of our favorite pictures.
you look like Merlin.
yeah, I was getting ready to turn the whole flagpole into something, so.
An
So
American
very good.
dragon.
So I'm gonna close this off real quick, because we do have a couple of other things we wanna do, but I am gonna close this off by throwing this out there. So there was a few little disagreements in some of the things we said. Between my son and myself, for sure. But it's one of the things I respect about my son, that he won't keep his mouth shut.
Yeah.
He will stand up for what he believes in. I totally respect that.
Man enough to
He
stand.
mans up, and that's fine, and he should, and he's a good example to his students. And I see other people have made some comments. I'm gonna tell you this. Prior to the start of our show, we had one conversation, and it was on
The election.
it was on the election. I can tell you this: not all 5 of us voted in the same direction. There were different votes done by people here. It's nobody's business what those votes were. We know, but we're still sitting here. We haven't killed each other. We haven't totally disagreed with each other. We're not hateful about it. And it brings this point, and it's one of the things that I hope this show will always be, when we've had other conversations that have been touchy, that we allow everybody to have a voice. They can say something. You're not going to make me mad if you disagree with me. I'm not going to be upset with my friends who I've been friends with. I've been friends with Mr. D now for over 10 years.
Yep.
You for maybe 8.
At least, well,
At least, yeah, and maybe 10. You for about 4 or 5. You for at least 5. 7 has it been? 7? So we've been friends. Their agreements or the way they believe things are, even if it's different from mine, it doesn't make me say, hey, get the hell out of my house. And that's the number one reason that most people voted in certain directions. They didn't like other people telling them what to do. Didn't matter which side they voted on. So I just want everybody to know that at this table, there were differences of opinion. We have differences of opinion with some of the people, but we all have the ability. Go ahead.
Man,
Yeah.
we all served. We might not have always served under who we wanted to serve under, but we still all served and mission first.
That's true. And it also means one other thing too, because I hear a lot of people, I hear 2 things that I think are hilarious. There's a whole lot of celebrities and stars that have said they're going to buy airplane tickets and move to another country. I haven't seen one of them do it yet. And the funniest one to me is a very famous celebrity named Rob Reiner said that he would set himself on fire if Trump won. Haven't seen that yet either. So people say things that they probably shouldn't say, and they should just hold back on the things they say. There were several times in my military career, I didn't like the president that was there, but he was still the commander-in-chief. And you still follow a chain of command, you still follow your leaders. There are very few times, and they have to be very drastic times, when you might go against the orders of your superiors. But after an election is not one of them. So I just want everybody to know that. Dia, you want to say something? Go ahead.
One of my big perspectives about being in the military changed in 1991. The Soviet submarine, the Kursk, went down, taking all hands. It was an international concern and incident at the time. And I had already known the greatest enemy to all submarine sailors is the ocean, not the other country. But one thing I've held ever since that time is every enlisted person serving their country, even if it's a country we consider our foe, is still my brother, because they're there to serve their people, their country, and their family. And I will back them on that aspect every day.
And that's, I want to add one more anecdote, which is kind of cool based on what you just said, right? This tattoo that's on my arm, you can't see it, right? It's a turtle. And the turtle has on it a symbol that I drew on it, right? So it's Dao, right? So it means the water or the way. It's a Chinese symbol. And when we had stopped the Haigang Yu, which you had seen, that was the middle ship, right? When we stopped it, I was standing on deck with one of their officers. We allowed one of their people to be on deck at night with me. He did not speak English. I did not speak Chinese, but he saw this tattoo. And he said, China Dao or American Dao? And I said, China Dao. And then so we started talking through visuals and then just working through, like what we could do. And I found out they had been on that ship for 7 months. They had not been allowed to go on shore and all that stuff. All because of one thing, they're sailors. That's all they were. They had no idea that they were doing anything that was illegal, right? Only the captain, the purser, and the Iranian translator that was on board knew what was going on. The rest of them were just the crew.
They were just soldiers.
So the 4 months that we were on board, we shared, was it boiled dumplings, stuff like that for dinner. I got a bottle of sake from that ship because we finished it on Chinese New Year's. And I said, can I keep this? And they said, yeah, go ahead. They didn't care. So all these people, like you said, are fighting for their country. Well, they're not even fighting. They're just serving their country and stuff like that. So just remember that. It's like, so it's never always as violent as you hear in the news from some people, going against it. The people that are there, like us, we're just doing our job. We're doing our job supporting our country, defending our country.
Well, that brings up another point, which means I'm going to extend this segment now. We've all met foreign nationals from other countries. Some of those other countries we've met are enemies to this country.
Yeah.
And we've met those foreign nationals, those military people. They're not any different than I are.
Nope.
They're not any different than the rest of us are. They're just serving for their belief and their cause, and they're following their commander's orders. And it's in some of the countries I've been in, there wasn't any hatred amongst the normal people,
right.
None whatsoever. So it's an interesting thing when you do that, and then you come back to this country, and then you listen to all the things in the media. And I'm not going to say which medias or any medias, but they do all this stuff to make you believe that all those people over there are bad.
All the vitriolic retort.
And they're not. They're minions believing in what they believe in.
Many times it's not the people it's the leadership
Yeah.
And
Everybody wants to be fed and housed and have a future for their children.
Right.
It's
Exactly.
worldwide.
So I believe that military service has given me a way to look at the world in a different light. It's probably one of the reasons why I become so argumentative, and that might not be the right word, but I'm going to use that word. I become what's that? Passionate. We'll use passionate. I become passionate in discussions of world issues with people that have never been in the world.
Right.
We've been in the world. Military people have been in the world. Now, there are some people that they had opportunities to be out in the world and they see things. But there's nothing like going out of your country, seeing what the rest of the world looks like, and then coming back and going, I think we got a pretty damn good country.
with all our problems.
Even with all of our problems.
Many blessings.
Yes. All right. On that note, Davey, throw up This Week in History, if you don't mind, please.
Welcome to This Week in History, sponsored by our good friends at Dick's Wings Bar and Grill. Wings, salads, wraps, quesadillas, and more. No matter what your taste buds crave, they've got you covered. We begin this week in history in the year 1864. Union Major General Sherman leaves Atlanta on his march to the sea. 1883, Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson is first published as a book by Castle and Company. 1889, New York World reporter Nellie Bly begins her attempt to surpass fictitious journey of Jules Verne's Phileas Fogg by traveling around the world in under 80 days. She succeeds, finishing the trip in 72 days, 6 hours. 1921, U.S. President Warren G. Harding dedicates Tomb of Unknown Soldier at Arlington Cemetery. 1925, American scientist Robert A. Millikan announces discovery of cosmic rays. 1939, Kate Smith first sings Irving Berlin's God Bless America. 1940, first 75,000 men called to armed forces duty during peacetime. 1966, Buzz Aldrin takes the first space selfie, a photo of himself performing extra-vehicle activity in space during the Gemini program. 1973, U.S. President Richard Nixon authorizes construction of the Alaskan Pipeline. 1980, Big Thunder Mountain Railroad opens at Disney World in Florida. 1982, Vietnam Veterans Memorial opens in Washington, D.C., featuring the names of over 58,000 U.S. soldiers killed or missing in the Vietnam War. And finally, in 1983, President Reagan becomes first U.S. president to address Japanese legislator. And that was This Week in History.
All right, Davey, I was just looking. Can you scroll the, because I'm standing in front of and blocking everybody. How about that? That big belly, look at that. Can you scroll the comments there? I want to make sure I didn't miss anything.
Come on this side.
I'll come over on this side here and
I'm-
look at
I'm-
them. I'll hide Mr. D.
I'm my ugly mother.
Ahoy from Michigan, very good. I see my son, the last comment my son made when I made a comment about his sarcastic remark, is he wonders where he learned it from. I'll tell you this, Will, the historian, you made everybody laugh here, but you didn't learn it. It's in your blood. So Bo says that the Neo Trinidad was up in Yorktown in October. That's cool. Sky Jockey, I just realized who Sky Jockey is.
You just now?
I knew who it was, but it didn't dawn on me until just a few minutes ago. Sky Jockey is Mark, Melinda's husband. He's watching from somewhere else in the world, right?
Maryland right
He's
now.
in Maryland? Oh, well, that's a foreign
We could
country.
say he's there.
Maryland's a foreign country, yeah. So, can you scroll up a little bit, Davey?
I think that's it. Unless we're seeing different from what he is.
I guess we're seeing different from what you're seeing. But I think we got all of the comments, and I think we're right on track with everything. I hope everybody's had a good time with the show and has enjoyed things, even if there've been differences of opinion. That's the best part. Yes, Mr. D, you should have had that hat on the whole time.
I've had it right here.
Look at the glare that's now gone.
Oh, thanks.
I took my glasses
Hey.
So, Davey, do we have a new poster for guests on deck?
We do.
Go ahead and throw that up there. That was quick. All right, go ahead. We need to do a mini mayhem's reveal. I think I know what it is. But purple.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Throw it.
Okay, it's time for the answer to the joke of the week. What happened when Bluebeard fell overboard in the Red Sea? The answer is he got marooned.
Outstanding.
We're at the end of the show.
And the viewership dropped a one.
Wow. Yeah, our viewership may have just dropped. Wow. Our viewership may have blacked out.
Way to go, Puddle Pirate.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, we always like to thank everybody for being a part of the show because it's important to make sure everybody that's part of the show knows that they are very welcome to be a part of the show. And that's not just the people that are sitting at the table with me or the guests that come in, but it's everybody that watches the show and supports us. So, Davey, throw that thank you up there real quick.
The Captain's Quarters podcast is indeed a ship sailing the seas of the world, always in search of history, knowledge, and adventure. It takes a crew to run a ship, so we take this opportunity to thank those who help keep this ship afloat.
The cast and crew: Captain William Mayhem, Navigator Davy Longwood, Gunner Hellfire Henley, Cartographer Mandy Joe, the Powder Monkey, and Juan Cam.
Helping others gives a crew purpose. Our treasured charities that we support: Inc., investing in kids; the Humane Society of St. Johns County; Aelia's Acres, a no-kill animal rescue zone; and the Cadets of the St. Johns County Fire Department. The four major charities that we support, but there's always room for more.
You too can be part of the crew and support the show in many ways. Go to Patreon. A small monthly contribution as Powder Monkey or First Mate memberships, or a single contribution. PayPal or Venmo. Go to YouTube. Hit the like and follow buttons to join our ranks and support the show. It does take a crew. Thank you.
Very good, Davey. We always show our platforms next. If you can't catch us live at 8 o'clock on Monday night, it immediately downloads to our YouTube channel, Captain's Quarters Podcast, or you can find us on our Facebook page, Captain's Quarters Podcast, or you can find us at Instagram or Twitch. Those are the ways you can watch us. You just want to listen to us, and believe it or not, amazingly enough, I have families that have come into the museum and have told me that they've listened to us either on the way driving to St. Augustine or going back home again. So you can listen to us on iHeartRadio, Music, Amazon, Twitter, CastBox, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and of course Spotify. But you can also watch us on Spotify too. I keep telling everybody I'm going to give Joe Rogan a run for his money, but that's probably going to take me about 300 years. All right. And Davey, did Mandy make Mandy wasn't here tonight. Did she give you a reason or?
No, I was just thankful she gave me the next guests, but she did not give me numbers.
Okay, very good. So we don't have the numbers, right?
Right.
Okay. So we'll have our numbers next week, which means they'll be even better. We're doing pretty good. But on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I think we've reached the end of our show. And as I always say, if it's just me, we run less than an hour. But this show's been an hour and 40 minutes now, give or take. Wow. Which means that we've had a good time.
A lot of fun.
And a lot of fun. And it does show one thing. We may all have similar experiences, but we have differences of opinion. But we can still sit at the same table. And that was one of the points for there. Stuck for a month waiting for country clearance. Well, heck, you might as well just come home for that month then, huh? So I say this.
Maryland, right?
Yeah, Maryland. A difference of opinion is not a bad thing. It's how you handle it.
Aye,
We've done well. So, Davey, how do we close the show?
Part of the podcast.
Part of the crew. Always. We can't do it without you. We could, but it's not as much fun. And me sitting here at the table with these four blokes would not be a whole lot of fun if I didn't have somebody else to make fun of them with me.
Blokettes.
Blokettes. But it's always a lot of fun when I have friends that are part of the show with me. The other day I had somebody say, why do you keep doing it? This is one of the reasons right here. Are we making money? No. Davey, do you want to quit?
No, I actually love doing this.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. We're making enough money to pay for it, and then maybe do a few extra little things here along the way. But one of these days, maybe Davey and I will be like Joe Rogan and make money.
International star.
There we go. Well, you never know. And with Mandy's help, the way she's taught us some of the things that we're doing and some new things we're working on for the new year, we'll be in good shape. We're not going backwards, and that's the purpose of any good venture. If you start going backwards, you might as well quit. We're not going backwards.
Like and share.
All right. Do like and share, do pay attention, and do become part of what we're doing. Until next week, ladies and gentlemen, which will be the 18th, and from the 18th on, I'll be a ghost. I got so much going on. But I raise my glass to my friends here, my fellow vets, and any other vets that are watching us. If you catch the show, our honor is to all of you also. We cheer all of you. To the vets, to the ones that make everything good for us. Aye. Close her out, baby.
Town of history's embrace, captain's quarters.